With
Jack Frolick, Yaakov in Hebrew.
what is your position at AKIM?
I'm Director of International Relations at AKIM Israel, which is a large nonprofit supporting thousands of people with intellectual disabilities and their families and parents.
And what can you tell us a little bit about what programs and services do AKIM
Sure. So,
offer?
so AKIM, even before the programs, the story of AKIM is about providing opportunity.
Yes.
So all of our programs are person-centered, and they're about looking at the person themselves and not limiting them, but seeing what kind of things can we offer them? How can we give them the best quality of life, right? As a person with an intellectual disability. So the services range from, for example, community living, right, which is the whole trend to deinstitutionalization, making sure that people are living with dignity, living like anyone else.
Yes.
So in apartments within the community, within the city, right? So we have 550 people living community living. Employment, we accompany people with real jobs who are working in the workforce, getting a paycheck, doing amazing things. 32 people employed at the Ichilov Medical Center, a hospital, which is not a very common thing around the world when you look at the field of disabilities. We introduced the first program allowing people the opportunity to serve in the IDF.
Wow.
Which is also something that's very formative in one's life in Israel. So for years, people, would grow up and they had siblings, for example, serving. They have an intellectual disability and they were automatically disqualified, right? So we, in collaboration with the IDF in 2006, began the first program of its sort, Equal in Uniform. And today there's several programs doing wonderful things, and there's thousands of people who are benefiting from it. And after that program, people in general are very employable, right? Because of the skills, the confidence, and the people they served with, right? The soldiers without an intellectual disability now know what it's like, and we're comrades, friends, buddies. So if they meet up in an apartment years later, right, it won't be strange for them to interact. Okay, it also breaks barriers, right? This program. Um, and I'll add one more, and then please, whatever you ask. But the newest program that provides opportunity that AKIM introduced is called AKIM College. So basically, the idea is that offering employment is fantastic in the Army service, but why not? AKIM said, why not give people the opportunity to have that experience, higher education, campus life, right? Walking around with a coffee and gaining skills, being stimulated, right? In university, college setting. Today we have 15 tracks all over the country, including some major, institutions of higher learning. We also gear the program towards fields in Israel where there's a lack of people working in it. So it's a win-win. Also, the Israeli economy wins out in the end, but obviously people, their confidence and their social skills, but they also learn a trade and have a career. So as an example, we have a music program at the Bar Ilan University, a music school. We have an education program at Levinsky College in Tel Aviv. We have a healthcare support program at the Kaplan Hospital, where they train people there in the medical field, and on and on. One of the programs that recently I visited was the Equal in Culinary Skills at the Rimonim Chef School in Tiberias, which is also an amazing program. And people come out of it with real skills to work in professional kitchens. And that's just an example, but that's the next big thing, right? We're already thinking of the next one, but in terms of providing opportunity for people to have the highest quality of life and maximize their potential.
Of course. What distinguishes us in AKIM from other organizations that work with inclusion?
Okay, so first of all, Israel is a leader in the realm of inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities, and it's a mosaic of fantastic organizations. Um, Sometimes we think, in Israel, we look to the West, to America, Canada, England, that maybe they're Europe, that they're ahead of the game. In the realm of intellectual disabilities, Israel is incredible. I call it the startup nation in low tech as well. Social impact, looking after people. AKIM basically, one of the, I'd say, differences that AKIM, that you could say that AKIM has from other organizations is that we have, number one, a very, very active legal department. So we have lawyers who are employed to take up the rights of people with disabilities, whether they're in an AKIM framework or not, including counseling, taking from parents, a hotline in Arabic and Hebrew, okay? Court cases also getting involved, but also lobbying and being very involved in the legislation, pushing the realm forward. The institutionalization, we push towards getting higher salaries for everybody, right? In Israel, working with people with disabilities, and it went through something that we spearheaded with other organizations. So the legal department is one identifying feature. The other major one is that AKIM is really national. AKIM is in the periphery, the social, but also the geographical periphery of Israel, everywhere, including the Arab Druze sectors as well. We have a very vibrant chapters in the north and also in the south. So it's very much a national organization in that way. There are other organizations that are incredible, that are based in a particular region, doing amazing things, and people come from all over. And AKIM's model is we have 69 branches throughout the country, and we provide our services through all the branches, and also irrespective of the branches, trying to reach as many people as possible, and making sure that they can have services in their community and not have to, let's say, travel or not be able to travel, be without services. So we bring the services to them.
Is AKIM part of any political organization?
So no,
Political party or?
none whatsoever. So AKIM is a nonprofit, okay, completely apolitical. And not only that, AKIM is an organization that's national. Our presence is throughout Israel, including Israel's geographical periphery, the north, the south, Arab, Druze, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, all serviced, provided for. We have a whole branch in the Arab population sector, right, with representatives on our board, etc. We come together on many things. AKIM is a unifier. You see that at the staff conventions and we have also a self-advocacy movement of people with intellectual disabilities who are self-advocates. They train with a facilitator, then they speak for themselves. They volunteer in their communities. They also lobby at the Knesset. Those people, those groups are in all population sectors, and we have a national convention. It's a beautiful thing. We had one in April, over 500 people coming together. You have people, some are religious Jews, religious Arabs, secular, you name it. Everyone together, the only thing they care about is the quality of life, their quality of life, and also having an impact on Israeli society. AKIM is one of those beautiful unifiers that exists somewhere in a plane above, the issues that sometimes divide in Israel. They're not palpable when you're with AKIM. You feel something else.
Now, what is the story of AKIM? You speak about 1951, like 3 years
Not from
after.
experience, 1951, but personally, but yeah. No, it's a good story, actually. 1951, that's 3 years after the establishment of the State of Israel. Not many resources, fledgling state, right at the beginning. There was nothing there, apparently, for people. There was no, organization or some kind of a social network.
You wouldn't think they would think of people with disabilities. They had other needs.
Very true. So there were so many, exactly. So there was a family, apparently, a family with a child, and that's how. And they wanted to grow and make this something more, organized. And from there, it grew from one family looking after their child into an organization. But what remained was this, that it began with parents the parents needed support, right? Parents need advice, sometimes counseling. They also, if they have other kids, etc., they need respite so they can have a life and they can also focus on other children, on their careers. So to this day, AKIM remains also focused on the people with disabilities, but also supporting and helping the families and the parents. So there's lots of services for parents, okay, including respite, including all aftercare, which we have. We provide aftercare all over the country so that someone with a career, let's say a mother, who needs to work till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in order to work in high tech or in the wherever she works, the children go to an AKIM after the 1 o'clock, 1:30 p.m. when the school day ends. They go to an AKIM location and receive aftercare. the aftercare program was born out of also looking at the parents. It provides fantastic enrichment and care for the kids, but it also at the same time frees up the parents. So we remain with one eye for sure to supporting parents.
Wow, this is amazing. So Akim started with one family, and
Yes.
now what is the number of people who work
So,
for and in Akim and the
right.
patients?
So the there first of all in terms of staff, there's 1,100 paid staff members, approximately 1,300 volunteers, 1,300 volunteers. There are 69 branches across the country. There's 35,000 people that are people with intellectual disabilities that are in some way supported or serviced by AKIM, and over 100,000 when you take into account families and parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what is the process? How do you pass through? How do you accompany families through
Mm.
diagnosis,
So
adaptation, and support?
So in Israel, okay, it's very regulated, which can be a blessing or can be sometimes red tape, but it really goes through the criteria that
What is regulated?
so
Okay.
the evaluation system and
Okay.
how someone is, let's say, deemed appropriate for a particular service or living, environment. That usually has to do with things that the Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs. They're very much the government ministry that look after people with intellectual disabilities. So they will work in tandem with many of the nonprofits, the Amutot, the NGOs that are working in the field. Okay, so there's a whole process that is basically government standardized, but AKIM has a major say in a lot of the legislation and the way things are done, and we've been pushing all the way along, always for more deinstitutionalization. We also pushed we had a major initiative to make sure that people working in the field, right, supporting people with intellectual disabilities, are better paid, to increase their salaries, okay, and also make it a recognized profession so that there's actual accreditation and training. Because before that, if people worked, okay, they worked in it and they received a pretty low salary. And that's a problem because there's a lack of employees in the field in many places, by the way, in the world, not just in Israel. So Akeem said, how can we help this? Number one, higher pay, but also make people feel good about what they're doing and make it more professional. So we spearheaded that with other organizations through the Knesset, right, the government, and it was passed. So already a year and a half already, the salaries have gone up, and and it's one way of trying to alleviate the lack of staff in the field.
Of course. What concrete initiatives do you take to promote inclusion in schools, communities, and labor spaces?
So, okay, first of all, at the legislative level, okay, Akeem was very involved also with our legal department in terms of the schools and all the policies about classes, et cetera, and integrated classes and schooling. It's something that we do that's at the level of lobbying and legislation. The, um, the actual, let's say, affecting Israeli society to push for inclusion. So we have a lot of ways, meaning from legislation, we have also theater troupe, for example, a very popular theater troupe, people with intellectual disabilities, and they go and they perform all across the country, including schools. Okay, and basically their theme is that look at us, we have dreams as well, we have ambitions, we are people, and when they see people on stage, right, with a very very content-rich performance, it's through the arts. Okay, we also are getting a message across to a lot. This is a troupe that goes and has many many performances throughout the year, and in between, there's all sorts of initiatives reaching the public, and we have a national day where we go out and it's actually a week of promoting Akeem into Israeli society, and always the theme is the inclusion, opportunity. Um, we don't even call it integration anymore because integration is kind of someone needs to be integrated, but it's really inclusion and belonging, right? Are really the words that we use, and it accompanies us in everything we do. So
It's Sounds like a wonderful society that is willing to include, that is willing to embrace people with disability.
I'll tell you this. Um, it sounds, now I'm Israeli too, so it sounds self-serving to agree or to say that that's the case. Israel was not always the case at all. Okay, and I'm speaking on things that I've heard from people and what I've read. And only a few decades ago, and this only magnifies how amazing Israeli society has become. A few decades ago, it was not good at all. And the Israeli society was not a society that was accepting of people with intellectual disabilities. Very much no. Israel has made incredible strides. It wasn't always like that at all. And this has got to do with many of, like I mentioned, there's a whole family of NGOs, of nonprofits and initiatives that over the last few decades have been doing amazing work. I call it, again, Startup Nation Low Tech Social Impact. The Army is one of them, but there's others too. Today, Israelis don't, they don't see it as odd when they see also when they go in the workplace as well, the workplace, the streets. But that said, there's probably still work to do. Okay, um, but there's been an amazing transformation really in Israeli society in a
Yeah.
short period of time.
And lately, your organization has been promoting programs for independent living.
Mhm.
How do this model work and what is the impact?
So this is really the next big thing for sure. It's already not the next big thing. It's the big thing in terms of living, meaning how does a person between the hours where they're, let's say, working, studying, whatever, when they're at home, like any of us, how do they spend those hours? So the idea, of course, is that anyone, and even with it's a little bit of support that you need to have the experience of a life like anyone else, to have a bedroom, to be living with, maybe a few flatmates, right? The model right now, I think, is up to 6 in an apartment. The ideal, of course, is everyone has their own room. There's no question there's still 2 people in a room in many places, etc. But this is the deinstitutionalization that we definitely have been striving for and lobbying for a long time. The legislation has been passed based on also AKIM was a major part of it, and it's also a financial issue because also same thing in North America. It's a wonderful thing, but to make it happen, you need to have properties, right? So we rent, we have properties, and it's something that we're thinking also about how creative ways of getting more apartments, right? Because it's really about the demand is there, the supply, but the legislation is there too. So now it's figuring out how to get either more builders to donate or maybe build every apartment they build to leave 1 or 2 for people with disabilities. There's all sorts of ideas being bandied about. It has to be solved probably more than just by AKIM, maybe the government with certain incentives for developers, etc. But it's something that we're definitely putting major focus on because it's key.
It is wonderful. You spoke about legislation that a country that is fighting for survival almost all the time takes time to look after their people with disabilities.
That's true. And you know what? It reminds me, the war I don't know if it had started yet, but maybe it was just before. But the Knesset, as usual, right? The Israeli House of Government, there was a lot of fireworks and a lot of disagreement, and people were threatening and trying to take down the government. That's when the legislation that we brought, this one about, let's say, allowing for maximum inclusion, right? That includes the housing, employment, okay? That when it came to the vote, okay, on the Knesset floor, it was passed, and it was, I believe that Yair Lapid, who was then already in the opposition, he has a daughter who was autistic, and I believe he also related to her. But there was, you know what, it could have been passed just at the end of the previous government, but I remember that it was a very emotional time where there was definite unity. It's that same unity you feel in Akim, because when they were talking about this legislation for people with disabilities, suddenly all those other, things that are dividing us every day were unimportant, and they voted, I think almost unanimously for this budget and for this legislation.
I see. Have you exported your know-how to other countries?
Not enough.
Not
No.
enough.
But that said, AKIM is actually we have observer status on the United Nations Council on the rights of persons with disabilities, the CRPD, and we contribute there. And we also are members of both Inclusion Europe and Inclusion International, which are large, right, international forums for sharing also information, etc. Not only, 4 years ago, we hosted a Inclusion International conference in Israel, which was very successful, came from all over. So it's a very important thing, and we share information. After the 7th of October, we filed actually a report to the UN about the impact of the war on people in Israel with disabilities. After the focus was very much on Gaza, the effect there, and just an example. So we're also active in that field. Right?
And what are your future projects? What are the future that are most important to you?
So okay, AKIM is firing in different directions for the same goal of inclusion. So the legal department, no question, being on top of how the legislation is played out and how the actual execution of the new legislation takes place. We're very much there on top of things, making sure that everything is going to, pan out the way it's supposed to. The AKIM College program is also a major goal to expand and make sure that opportunity for higher education and career continues to flourish. The housing, again, putting our heads to how we can get more housing together so that more people who want to live in dignity like anyone else can. So these are some of the major things. We're also building centers where people can get therapy, and whether it's occupational and vocational, in the outlying areas. So right now we're building also in two Arab population bases, one in Beit Shan. These are major ventures to make sure that people don't have to commute, or worse, that they won't commute and they'll just be at home idle. So providing services in the community. Another one we did a pilot that will expand is providing services at home. So the people that can't come out for whatever reason, we bring the therapy, etc., to them so that they're receiving what they need. There's probably other things I'm not even aware of, but there's a lot of initiatives out there and a lot of plans.
Do your work as an influence on how Arabs see the Jews? Because you don't make any difference.
Right. I wouldn't. So first of all, it wouldn't be up to me to, let's say, put words in the mouth of, let's say, our friends. But I can say that from the interaction I've had, I haven't heard that from them because we haven't, said right out, how do you feel about us? We don't talk on that level. But it's clear that they have a lot of appreciation for AKIM, okay? But it's also not a patronizing thing because they also are part of the leadership. Those branches are run in their communities, etc. They have also representation on the board. So it's not the type of thing that, we're doing you a favor, so we hope that you have favor towards us. We're together in this, trying to improve the lives, and let's do it together. Okay, we're stronger together. You see that at national conventions. I would think that there's appreciation, but probably in the same way there's appreciation in any other branch, in any other population sector.
Is there one case that really impacted you?
There are many, and I can't think of all right now. But one I'll tell you, which is sounds kind of menial, but I thought it was big. It was important. Just after the legislation to improve the salaries of the professional care workers, right, who were getting a very low salary. So I did a site visit with someone from America to a vocational center in Tiberias, and the manager of the center sat with us, and she had just met with someone from the staff, and the legislation had just gone through just before that, and the salary just went up that month. And she said, this woman I just met with works here, and I don't know if you noticed, but she left with tears in her eyes, and she's not the first one. And I want to tell you what happened. Basically, I was telling them or notifying them that their salaries are going up. Okay.
and the reaction was, someone notices us. Like, incredible that really our efforts are being rewarded, right? It sounds menial, okay? They got an increase in salary. It wasn't huge, okay? But the real strength of AKIM and any of these organizations are the people that are working day to day with the people with disabilities. Anyone who's seen the field from up close, I only have the this great merit to reflect the work they're doing, okay? But when you see, they give heart and soul. We call them sachare neshama. They work with their souls, okay? So I think that was a very it was very moving, okay, to hear that.
Yes,
Um,
of course.
and there's other. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
And how can we help Akim from Mexico?
So I think, look, aside from the classic, which is almost pithy to say, is that of course the classic model of supporting projects, etc. We have all sorts of projects that are not covered by the government, and we look for outside support. But that's an obvious one. So a less obvious one is probably when visiting Israel, knocking on our door. Not even to, let's say, volunteering is great, but even coming to visit and see, because when people visit, often not only the people with disabilities who, in general, I'm saying generalization, there are those who don't like visitors just like anyone else, but there are those who also are very, very, and could be moralized and are very happy to meet new people. We explain from where they are. The staff, same thing. It's also being noticed, seeing what's going on. And I think it's a win-win. Obviously, people coming, it's also very enlightening for them. So it's a very pleasant experience. So I think having it on the radar when someone's visiting Israel, okay, Akim.
Where is it?
The headquarters in
Located?
Tel Aviv, okay,
Mhm.
North Tel Aviv. But the beauty is that we have presence all over the country. So if someone's staying in Beersheba, we have what to see in Beersheba. If they're in the north, clearly in the center too. That's one. That's the second thing. The third thing I'd say is that organizations that help people with disabilities abroad, in the communities in Mexico, U.S., wherever else, there is room for more, let's say, sharing of the level of professional information, seeing how things are done, procedures, etc. I'm sure there's what we could learn and share.
Thank you so much.
A great pleasure, and thank you.